Hi there. Today we are going to make bacon. Now, oh, nice one. So bacon is several steps, so it's not quick, but it is easy. And it does require one specialized piece of equipment that you may be able to find in a secondhand store, like a Salvation Army or something like that. You may have a friend or family member who owns this thing already, and since it's not ever constantly in use, you might be able to borrow one. You could buy one. They run almost 200 Canadian, unless you can get a good deal on them, like 180 bucks, I think, usually. And we are talking about a smoker.
Canadian Tire or Amazon is also a
Yeah, there are lots of places that you can, or if you have a store that caters to hunters or camping.
Cabela's is one.
Yeah, Cabela's is one. So there are lots of places. We happen to have the little Chief smoker, which you can get at Canadian Tire, maybe at Rona, those kinds of places, maybe even Home Depot, I'm not sure about that. It's, you know, that big and it plugs in and it's handy dandy.
You'll see it.
You will see it when we get to that bit. You can't smoke bacon without some kind of smoker. Now, there are probably other smokers. You don't have to have a little Chief. But like I said, if you know someone who has one, they're not in use constantly. So like ours sits for months at a time without being used. And anybody could ask us to borrow it. I mean, if I don't know you, I'm not gonna lend it to you, but you know what I'm saying, right? So let's get started because it is several steps, although most of it is hands-off time. And I just thought it would be really nice for you to know how to make real bacon. Now, why do you want real bacon? Let's get to that first. Obviously, if you're not a meat eater, don't watch this video. But if you are and you like bacon, the bacon that you're buying at the store, unless you're buying the premium stuff that says it's natural and that is actually smoked with wood, chances are what you're getting is bacon from pigs that have been raised in ways I don't even like, horrible
Distinctly
conditions.
unhappy pigs.
And non-happy pigs, right? Killed in a way that is horrible. And then it isn't even smoked. It is injected with, you know, water, which is why it shrinks so much. Sometimes liquid smoke is used. What we do is we take pork belly, we cure it, we smoke it, and then we make sure that it's safe by putting it in the oven for a little while. So we'll walk you through the whole process here, but I just want to say that once you've had homemade bacon, you're going to be really hard pressed to eat the stuff from the store.
We call it having a porkgasm.
A porkgasm, yes, because it is really good. Like, homemade bacon is a whole other thing. So if you want to try this, follow along and we'll show you what we're doing. So we're starting with, like I said, pork belly. I would prefer if you had happy pigs, but you get your pork belly from wherever you do. I would talk to your butcher and say, hey, how are these pigs raised? We could go on a whole Portlandia, his name was Carl thing. We're not going there right now. But, you know, I do think it's important how your meat is raised if you're going to be a meat eater.
And that's the skin on too, right?
Yeah, it is. So what we're doing is we're taking the pork belly. We have two pieces here that weigh combined about 1 kilo. And we are combining sugar and salt, equal amounts. For the kilo, you'll need maybe 1/3 cup each. What you can do if you plan to make a fair amount of bacon, or if you plan to make some ongoing, like in a couple months you'll make some more, is you can make up a big batch of half sugar, half salt. And by salt, not iodized salt, as we talk about. Use kosher salt, use sea salt.
Pickling salt.
Something that doesn't have additives in it, okay? So all we're gonna do is mix together sugar, salt.
In equal amounts, right?
I said that twice.
Yep, okay. Just making sure.
And make sure that it is completely mixed up. Now you can add sodium nitrate here.
Like a half a teaspoon or something like that?
You can.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. You can read all about that. Google sodium nitrate. There's controversy on how bad it is or not. I don't even want to go down that path. We're not using it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the pork belly and scoop, hands on, of course, And you're going to sort of pat all the way around.
Or you could just put it on the sheet pan too.
Yes, you can do that.
Press it
So
in.
you can put the salt and sugar mixture down and do that.
There you go.
do your way, whatever, right?
End up in divorce court. But she wanted to do it by hand, and I wanted to just lay it on there.
Yeah, so we obviously have different ways. As you know, if you've been around this channel, you know Rob and I do not always do things the same way.
Yeah,
But you know
right.
what? Both ways ends up with a delicious outcome. And we've been married long enough. One of the great things I think to staying married is if your spouse does something a different way than you do, that's okay.
Speaking of which, hey, how would you like to move the tray over here just so we don't get in this really bright sunlight?
Yeah,
'Cause it's
I
getting
can do that.
then the fine people at home can see there you go, exactly what it is you're doing.
So you're just covering the whole thing with your salt. Okay? All sides. And then you're putting them into a Ziploc bag. And then you're going to take, it's a little messy. You're going to take the remaining salt and sugar mixture and just put it in the bag with it. And then once my hands are washed with soap and hot water, I'm gonna zip that up and put it in the fridge, lay it down flat in the fridge. And it's gonna sit there for about 10 days. And we will come back, and what you wanna do, during that 10 days, you want to flip it
Every couple of
occasionally.
days, right?
Yeah, like 2 to 3 days. Give it a flip. That's all you have to do is literally flip it over in the fridge, and that is it. And we'll come back and show you what you do after the 10-day period is up. So after your pork belly has been curing in the fridge for about 10 days, and you've flipped it every couple of days, just to make sure that the cure is doing both sides and all that, you take it out of the fridge and you're looking at your baggie like this. And all you need to do is pop your pork belly into a bucket, a pot, whatever large vessel, bowl that you have of cool water. And we're gonna let that sit there for 30 minutes. And what we're doing is we're extracting some of the salt there. And we're going to, in 30 minutes, we're going to pour off this water and put new water in and let it sit for another 30. Now, you don't need to see me do that. You know what it's like to dump out water and put new water in.
Trust is a wonderful thing.
Right? So we're not going to come back and show you the changing the water, but just know that soak it twice, right? 30 minutes, ditch the water with all the salt in it, new water, 30 more minutes, and we'll come back at that point, okay? So we're back after the pork belly has had 2 changes of water, 30 minutes soak each time. And we've just drained it, and you can see I got a little bit of moisture coming off of it. And this is where we're gonna pat it dry. And this is one of the rare places that I use paper towels. Generally speaking, I am a cloth towel kind of gal. But I buy paper towels for just this sort of situation because raw meat, paper towels.
Cloth bad.
Well, you can then wash your cloths in really hot water or bleach them or whatever, but that's not really any better either. So, paper towel.
Chasing your carbon neutral tail on that one.
So anyway, there we go. So just try and get all of the moisture off of your pork belly there. And we got our second piece here.
Now you're laying it out on this rack to dry.
Yes, so it's what we want to do is we want to leave it on this rack for about 45 minutes or so. Any kind of rack that you have that provides air circulation around the outside of it is what you want, rather than just leaving it on a plate. You're doing that so that the air can dry any moisture that's already there, but I think it's also the salt and the sugar form a kind of,
Well, the technical term is pellicle, I believe.
Yeah, I was gonna say skin, that's not the right word. But pellicle is not a
Crunchy candy coating?
not common parlance, right? So yeah, crunchy candy, except it's not crunchy. So, but yeah, so what you're doing is you're allowing the air to dry the effect of the salt and sugar onto the outside of this, as well as any extra moisture being evaporated.
So it'll get a little tacky to the touch, won't it, after
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to leave it like that. That looks pretty good to me. And yes, what we want in about 45 minutes or an hour, not an exact science, don't worry about it, okay, is it should be just a bit tacky to the touch in that time. And then we're in a position to put it in the smoker. That's the exciting bit, right?
It's legal now, you know.
I know. Bacon was always legal. I know you're excited. So come back and see that. So we're back, and you can see here that the pork belly, we put it on the rack that comes with the little chief smoker, and it's got a kind of tacky surface. The pellicle is what that's called. We're using mesquite wood chips. You can buy these kinds of wood chips at places like Canadian Tire, Home Depot, whatever.
Sporting goods stores.
Those kinds of places. You can use fruit woods like apple, cherry, that kind of thing. You can use alder. We've got mesquite. You can use hickory. But also, if you have wood chips around, you don't have to go buy wood chips. If you have wood chips of a good wood and it's very small pieces and it's dry. Now, that's working with the little chief smoker. You can see we've had this for a while. It's plugged in, as you can see. If you have a different kind of smoker, it may take a different kind of wood. Rob was telling me that there are some,
like the Bradley smoker.
hello, that there are some that use pucks. You know, I can't speak to that, right? Because this is the kind we have. So do whatever your smoker does, but I'll show you what we're doing here. So we're just gonna, it's that easy, right? You pop it in, you put the lid on. And this is the handy dandy place where you put your chips. Okay, so you see it's
hasn't started to smoke yet.
No, it hasn't. So this is a whole pan's worth, that's the word I was looking for, of chips that are going in there.
And we usually do about 3 panfuls, like let it go for a few hours each pan or something like that.
So it's plugged in and it's just going to start doing its thing. Now, if you don't have property like we do, you actually can use this on your balcony, right? It's small. It doesn't take up a lot of space. Your neighbors may not love it, but it actually smells pretty good. So
give them a piece of bacon, they will forgive you.
There is that, right? So give it a try, right? And especially if you borrowed it from someone and you're only using it for, one day, and then you give it back to someone, by the time anyone complains, like, don't worry about it. It's all good.
So we're going to leave that in there for what, about anywhere from 12 to 18 hours, depending on how much you like it smoked.
But you need to check the chips in that time.
Yeah.
You can't just leave it with the one pan of chips for 12 hours.
No.
So we're going to come back, and you don't need to see that, but I'll let you know maybe at our very final one when we show the next step. I'll tell you how many pans it took this time, okay? So we'll be back then. So we're back, and it's the next morning, and it took 3 pans of wood chips, and we put the last one in sort of before bed last night, and then this morning, here we have our beautiful rack of bacon. It is no longer just pork belly, it is bacon. And I'm just gonna take these slabs and put them on a sheet pan, cookie sheet, whatever you wanna call it, and we're gonna pop it into the oven, and the oven's quite low. And I'll put temperatures down below for you in both Fahrenheit and Celsius. What we're doing here is we're bringing up the temperature of the bacon, the internal temperature, to 155 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's just like the last finishing safety measure to make sure that your bacon is safe to eat and you know, cooked. It's cured. So this is a final extra precautionary step. So we're gonna do that, and we will come back and show you the beautiful bacon when we're done. So the bacon was in the oven for just about an hour, and I put a thermometer in, and it read 160 Fahrenheit. And since we were going for 155, you know, we could have pulled it out a little earlier. It's fine. Have a look at it. It's gorgeous.
Bacon porn.
Now what I'm doing here is, it's easiest to do this while it's still warm. If you wait till it's cold, it's going to be harder. Sometimes you can just pull the skin off like that. Sometimes, like now, you need, it's still pretty warm. You need a little help from a knife. And you want to leave as much of the fat as you can. You're really just pulling off the skin here. And if it, see, as you can see, there's very little, there's a bit of fat here, but not much here. I can probably just finish that with my hands. So that
Perfect.
is done. And then I'll flip over and I will do the same thing on this side. Again, you might need to use your knife to start it. See how I'm just going under the edge, and I'm getting as little of the fat and meat as possible in there, just the skin. If you need it to cool down a little bit longer to, because your fingers are burning, well, hey, yeah, do that. But there we go. It's hot, but as you can see, I can pull it.
Oh, that's one sorry pig.
Voila.
Okay.
Oh, please. So this, ladies and gentlemen, is your beautiful homemade bacon, and these are my hands covered in fabulous bacon grease. It smells like bacon. It's all smoky and yummy and porky. So the next thing that I want to say is, so what do you do with it now? I mean, obviously, slice that stuff up and cook it and eat it, and it'll be fabulous. So what do you do if you can't eat it all in one go? Say there's just one or two of you, you're not that big, you know, bacon eaters, whatever. Okay. So what you can do is take a whole piece or a couple of whole pieces, and what we do, you can use a Ziploc baggie and put it in the freezer, sucking the air out. We actually have a vacuum sealer, and so we put it in the bags and we vacuum seal it, and because we often make several kilos at a time when we're smoking, because if you've got the smoker going, why not? And so we vacuum seal a chunk and we put it in the freezer, and then we just bring out one chunk at a time as we need or want bacon. Doesn't everybody need bacon?
Everyone needs bacon.
Not everybody, but yeah. Anyway, so, but otherwise, if you think that you can consume it, can I give you a time how long it lasts in the fridge? A long time. But I can't give you an exact, it depends.
It never lasts very long.
It's never lasted very long around here, and it depends what size piece you have, right? So if you think you can eat it, just wait till it cools down and throw it in a bag and put it in the fridge, and it'll be great to slice off whenever you need it. I suppose you could, if you had one of those slicers, you could do a pre-slice thing so that you can just take slices out at a given time, but we find we leave it in a chunk because not only can we slice it the thickness, do you want it thin, do you want it thick, we can do that, but if you want to make something like lardon or some kind of chunks of bacon, you have it here and you can do that because you actually have the whole chunk that you can cut off, whatever size works for you. So there you go, that is bacon. And okay, yeah, it took 6 segments to get here, but it took 24 hours. I mean, other than the 10 days of sitting in the fridge. And
salt and sugar.
It was really easy. And the only 2 bits of equipment that you really, really need are a smoker. Again, you can borrow that thing. And a thermometer. You can probably borrow one of those if you don't have it as well. So there you go. Make yourself bacon. Why not?